even we have to discuss about that UPSC टेस्ट सीरीज देख रहे हैं हम। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 देख लेते हैं। कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट रिगार्डिंग द प्रभनास रिवोल्ट। प्रभनास रिवोल्ट के बारे में, इट वॉज द पीजेंट अपराइजिंग डायरेक्टली मेनली अगेंस्ट द एक्सेसिव रेंट डिमांड्स एंड बाय द ब्रिटिश द मूवमेंट्स एंड रिलीव्ड हैवी ऑन लीगल रेसिस्टेंस एंड पिटिशन rather than the armed rebellions. It and resulted in the enactment of the Bengal Tenancy Act 1885. Each of the following statement is correct. So statement first and second is correct. First only second is correct. With reference to aspect of and the classical Indian dance, and which of the following statement is are correct? And the Nritya is essentially expressional and performed specifications to convey the meanings of other or ideas. Nritya is the pure dance and where the body movement and do not express any mood or meanings. Nritya highlighted the dramatically elements of dance form. Select the correct answer using the code given below. First, second, third is correct. The peasant, already suffering from the economic hardships and the frequent and famines, and eventually rose in and the revolt against them oppressive practices, and one of the key leaders and Ishan Chandra Roy Ishan Raja, along with the followers and like the Khuti Mola and the Sambhu Nath Pal, and declared their the Parganas and independence from the Jamindari control and the envisioned and stabilizing other local government. Hence the statement first is not correct. The Pravana revolt gradually come to an end in the mid of 1870 as the British colonial administration recognized the widespread nature of the unrest and began to address the grievances of the peasant, and the revolt decline was marked by a combination of government intervention including military suppressions and legal reforms. Hence statement second is not correct. The enactment of the Bengal Tenancy Act in 1885, and which provided some protection to peasants against the arbitrary evictions and legal and illegal cases, was other significant outcome influences why the revolt. Has statement third is correct. What the highlights? B is correct. Ditya highlights as the Pardas unsigned treaties. Dance is considered as having their aspect Natya and Nrityas, and Nrityas highlights the dramatically elements and most dance forms and do not give and the emphasis to this aspect. Today with the expansions of dance dramas forms like the Kathakali, Natya is essentially expressional performance, especially to convey the meaning of either theme or ideas. Natya on the other hand is pure dance where the body movement and do not express any mood bhava, nor do they convey any the meanings. To present the Nrityas and Nrityas effectively, a dance should be the trend to communicate the navratas. There are love and the sringaras and mirth, hashyas and comparison, karunas and wailers, veeras, angers, rudras, fears, bhayanak, disgust and the vivatsas, and wonder the ad Bhutas and beat the Santas. Hence only third is correct. with regards and to the development and for the promotion of industries and internal Trade and DPII. Consider the following statement. It is the central government department under Ministry of the Commerce and Industries, and it is responsible for the facilitating and increasing the foreign direct investment flows to the country. Which of the following statement is are correct? देख लेते हैं इसे. The Department of Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade (DPIIT) is the central government department under the Ministry of the Commerce and Industry in India, and it is responsible for the formulation and implementation of promotional and developmental resources and for the growth of industrial sector, keeping in view the international priorities and socio-economic objectives. Hence, statement first is correct. While industrial administratives and ministries and look after the production and distributions, development and planning aspect of specific industries allocation to them, DPIIT is responsible for the overall industry policy. It is also responsible for the facilitating and increasing the foreign direct investment (FDI) flows to the country. The department in its the current and from come into being on the 27th January 2019, and when the erstwhile and Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion was renamed to Development for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade (DPIIT) after the internal trade was added to its the mandate. The department was originally established in 1995 and was recognized in the years 2000 with the margins of Department of Industrial Development. DPIIT is the nodal department in Government of India for coordinating and implementing programs and with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization (UNIDO). In India, the department also coordinates and with the apex industry associations such as the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Confederations of Indian Industry (ASSOCHAM) in their activities relating to promotions of industrial cooperations and to stability (FDI) into India. DPIIT is also responsible for intellectual priorities property rights relating to the patent, design, trademark and copyrights, layout, design of the integrated circuits and geographical indications of goods, and oversees the initiatives relating to the promotion and protections. How many of the following are the part of the UNESCO and World Network of Biosphere Reserve? Cold Desert Biosphere Reserve, Manas Biosphere Reserve, Sundarban Biosphere Reserve, Panna Biosphere. Select the correct answer using the code given below. First, second, third. All three are correct. Explanation देख लेते हैं. Biosphere Reserve C. Third is correct. Biosphere Reserve are the areas identified by the national government for conserving biodiversities and and promoting sustainable development. They have been described as the learning places for the sustainable development. They are sites and for the testing interdisciplinary approach to understanding and managing challenges, changes and interactions and between the social and the ecological system, including the conflict prevention and management of biodiversity. Biosphere reserves and includes the terrestrial, marine and coastal ecosystem. The country has 18 biosphere reserves covering the 91,425 square kilometers with 13 recognized by UNESCO. India has 18 notified biosphere reserves covering the approximately 19,425 square kilometers, of which 13 are recognized by the UNESCO World Networks of Biosphere Reserve WNBR. List of India 30 UNESCO recognized biosphere reserve. नीलगिरी तमिलनाडु, केरला कर्नाटक, गल्फ ऑफ मन्नार तमिलनाडु, सुंदरबंस वेस्ट बंगाल, नंदा देवी उत्तराखंड, नौकरेक मेघालय, पंचमढ़ी मध्य प्रदेश, सिमलीपाल उड़ीसा, अचानकमार अमरकंटक मध्य प्रदेश, छत्तीसगढ़, ग्रेट निकोबार अंडमान एंड निकोबार आइलैंड, अगस्त्यमलाई केरला तमिलनाडु, कंचनजंगा सिक्किम, पन्ना मध्य प्रदेश, कोस्ट डेजर्ट हिमाचल प्रदेश, Manas Biosphere Reserve is other nationally designated biosphere reserve and a the UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has not been included in a UNESCO World Network of Biosphere Reserve WNBR and under the Man and the Biosphere WMAB program has to is correct. Question number 5. Which of the following international agreements and primary and deals and with the access to the genetics resources and the affairs of equitable sharings of benefits arising from their the utilization? Cartagena Protocols on Biodiversity, Vienna Protocols and Nagoya Protocols and Montreal Protocols. I think Nagoya Protocols. Nagoya Protocol C is correct. The Nagoya Protocol on access to the genetic resources and the fair and the equitable sharings on Benga and benefits and arising from their the utilization is other 2010 and supplementary agreements to the Convention on Biological Diversity and CBCT. It provided other transparency and legal framework for implementing and one of the three main objectives of the CBD, the fair and the equitable sharings of benefits and derived from the use of the genetic resources. The protocol established and the obligation. The protocol established and the obligations for its and the contracting and parties and regarding access and the cheating and prediction tables and conditions and clear the procedures and for prior informed and consent PIC. Benefit sharing insurance that benefits and monetary on non-monetary are shared based on and the mutually agreed terms met. Compliance supporting adherences to domestic legislations and monitoring and the utilization of resources after the providing country. The terms green inflation recently seen in the news and refer to which of the following and phenomena: a rise in price of the used and primarily by the executing and demand during the economic recovery. Inflation driven by increased productions and costs such as the wages and raw material, a situation where the firms and raise price and beyond cost increase to explain profit margin, and persistent inflation and resulting from the expansionary and monetary policy by central bank. She is correct. A situation where firm raise the price and beyond cost increase to explain profit margin. What is green inflation? Green inflation refers to other situations and where the firm increased prices beyond what is the justified by the rising cost, primarily to expand and profit margins, and unlike the traditional inflation drivers and greenflations emphasis and the corporates and the pricing powers, and rather than the demands and the pressures or input cost and the escalations. Hence option C is the correct answer. How greenflations and operations in period of the economically stress. Stress on and the unnecessary such as the pandemics and wars over the supply chains and the disruptions, and companies and often face an higher cost. And however under the greenflations and firms use the generals and inflationaries environment as cover prices and rise and more than the proportionally and to the actuals and cost increase. Profit margins and wide even when and the input cost and the subsidized lies or fell. This behavior is more common in and the concentrated markets and where the competitions is limited and consumers and have the favors and alternative. How the greenflations differs from the other types of the inflation and demand pull inflation and arise when and the excess demands pushes prices up, and cost push inflations result from the higher inputs and costs like the wages, fuels or raw materials. Green inflation in and the contrast and occurs when cost may rise and the modestly or and the temporarily, and price rise and the sharply and the persistency. Corporate and profits increase the faster than the cost, and thus the profit expansions not cost, and pressure is and the defining features. With reference to the Press Council of India, consider the following statement. It is the statutory and quasi-judicial authority. It is the chaired and by the sitting or and the retired and judge of the Supreme Court. It has the power to order the show and motor inquiries in matters and the concernings and freedoms of press. Which of the statement given above are correct? Second and third is correct. First and second, third, तीनों is correct. The Press Council of India is the statutory, quasi-judicial and the autonomous authority mandated by the permanent by Parliament for the twice objectives and of the preserving the freedoms of the press and the maintaining and the improving the standard of the newspaper and the news agencies in India, exciting and equals quasi-judicial and functions over the authority as well as the press persons. It is comprises of the chairman and 28 members, while the chairman has by the conventions and the other sitting or the retired judge of the Supreme Court of India of the 28 members and 20 represent various segment of the press and it and the oversees the leaders and interested the representation of the two houses of the parliament, Lok Sabhas, Rajya Sabhas and the premiers, literaries and legal bodies of country. The council has its own the funds and for the performance of its and the functions and under the act and comprises the fee collection from the newspapers and other the repeat and also granted in aid and from and the central government, and there is also an the advisory role on the councils in that it can either ensure mottos or on either references and met it by the governments under section 13(2) of the act and undertake the study and express its the opinion in the regard to any bill, legislation, law or others the members and concerning the press and the convey its opinions to the government or and the persons and concern, and also in the matters of the public importance and concerning it is the statutory responsibilities and preserving the freedom of the press and maintaining and improving the standard of the newspapers and news agencies. The council may issue motto take an on the sports and inquiry has the statement third is correct. It is also in the empowered and to make such observations as it may think and fit in and the respect of the conduct of any the authority and including the government for the interference with the freedom of the press and so and the prescribed and under the section 4 and the decision of the councils are the final and cannot be questions in any other court of the law.